All right, welcome, Therese. I am so thankful that you are joining me today to share about your story. You and I have known each other a few months now, so let's just jump in and talk about what was going on in your life just before we met.
And thank you for having me. What was going on in my life before we met? For the last 15, dare I say 20 years, I've been working with healthcare companies who were in dire needs of turnaround. So that could either be we need to grow and scale quickly, we need to turn it around because the ship is sinking, we need to enter into something that we've never done before. And that has kind of, I feel like I've been a plug and play. They've dropped me in and said, make magic happen. Um, Coupled on top of that, it's 2023. It's hard to believe it's 2023, but for the last 3 years, because of the field that I'm in, we were also dealing with COVID, and in a different kind of way with healthcare. We're trying to support the community. We're trying to support the physicians and the nurses who are helping the community. We're trying to support the organizations that are helping the physicians help the community. So it was really intense for an extended period of time. Um, I think that was really what brought me to you was this. I was in an ultra marathon, and you can usually do it for short periods of time, but I didn't see the end in sight. I didn't see where there was going to be a calm in the storm.
Yeah. And what would you say were some of the symptoms of this marathon that you were in? Like physical, emotional, anything like that?
Um, you know, it was intensity all the time. There was no relief. It was waking up at 6 a.m. and starting your day at 6 a.m., ending at 7 p.m., but thinking about it well into the night. I wasn't sleeping, or I was sleeping very lightly. I was anxious all the time. Um, I I can't recall if it was one or two times. I thought I was actually having some cardiac issues, some chest pains, and it turned out to be panic attacks. But I didn't know it, and that's not something I've ever experienced. I would say you could bounce quarters off my back. I was so tight. Every time I went into a massage, they would say something like, "Wow, oh," they would make these comments, and you're like, "Oh man, I'm way worse than I thought I was." Um, I think that I didn't realize it then. I realize it now, but I was short with my family. I wasn't patient. There were things that upset me that probably shouldn't upset me. I was triggered much faster than I probably should have been, but I didn't know it at the time. I just I felt tired, and then I would go, okay, well, you can go a little bit longer. There'll be relief, but there was never.
And what, if anything, had you tried? So maybe massage you'd tried, but what had you tried to eliminate these panic attacks, the hours you were working, all that stuff?
I think I did everything. I'm pretty self sufficient, so I must have read half a dozen books, from self help to calm anxiety, to meditation apps, to listening to classical music while I was doing things, to taking bubble baths. It was just like I was trying to find the Tylenol of all of this in every different way or form because nothing was working. So I would just kind of shift. Um, and nothing just, it would work for for a very short period of time. And then it just piled back up again.
Yeah, I like that you were trying to find the Tylenol for this. So you jumped in, but I am sure that there was some doubt or some hesitancy, but you tell me, what, if any, doubts or concerns did you have about working with me, working with my team?
Well, when I first met you and you shared what the program was like, the first thing is, I have no time for this. to read modules and do self evaluations. I have no time to go on a weekly call and meet people that I'll never meet or talk to again. I don't have. I'm busy. I need you to do this in the 30 seconds of my day that has not been scheduled, and fix it for the rest. The other 24 hours of the day. That was the first thing that really came to mind. Is I don't. I can't do this in this. I don't have the focus, the energy, or time to make this happen in a meaningful way. I think that was what was really screaming out.
Yeah. You didn't tell me that though. So what was it? What was it? I mean, I really appreciate your honesty on this. So when was the moment you realized, oh shit, this just might work. This might be worth it.
You
Do
know,
you have a moment like that?
I remember, yes, and you've mentioned it a couple times. It was really interesting when I was talking to you. You took an intake form, and I actually forgot why I wrote it, but I wrote, "I'm a tiger mom." And when we talked on the intake, you're like, "I think that's a really interesting image you put, because had you gone to my website, there's a tiger on it." And it truly was this very inconsequential moment that made me go, well, there's something there. So I'm gonna see what it's like. And I didn't tell you this. I'm not gonna commit to completing it, but I'm curious enough to go. There's something there. Give it a chance, and that really was the turning point. It was really weird. It was just there was a one small connection that made me go, well, maybe this is different.
And then you got in and you realized, okay, this was different. So what was one of the biggest differences between this and all the other stuff and approaches you've tried in the past?
Oh gosh. So, back to what is like the things that hesitated. The other thing that really made me pause was your description of these weekly calls and having conversations with others and listening and either participating or not. And you said something to the effect of, "It's amazing what you will take in when it's not about you," or something to that effect. And I'm an introvert. I don't actually really like meeting people. And I'm like, I'm never going to see these people. I don't know them. Why would I share my story with them? And it turned out to be probably the most useful and powerful and empowering thing about your program. And what was that? You were absolutely right, 100% right. And why I say that is I would hear things, or I didn't realize I was absorbing things. And 2 or 3 weeks later, I would be in a situation at work. And I kid you not, I have goosebumps right now. I kid you not, the person who had shared that story was standing right next to me. I could physically, or I could feel them right there sharing their story and giving me strength to kind of change how I would alter how I'd react to it. And I felt so strong. And then I would get off and go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had paid attention that closely. Or I didn't realize it had impacted me or connected with me in a way that it was now part of my DNA. And I think that really, once I had that first aha moment, every time I'd go to these weekly calls, I'd go, I don't know what I'm getting out of here, but it's coming with me and I'll get it back someday. So I think that was probably the most powerful and most significant difference to all the other things I've done in the past.
So you would never know from my side and from the participant side that you felt that way going into it, because so quickly you became so present, so vulnerable, and you were just a regular. You're like, I'm not missing these calls. And so I am so happy for you. Yeah, group coaching is tricky. And I've been doing it since 2008. So it takes some practice and some skill, but then you're right. If you're in the right community and you have the right structure, then magic happens that will not happen in a one-on-one coaching session, because your brain is so resistant to the change and protective.
Yes, it was, I didn't realize when others were talking that I did have walls. I wasn't multitasking. That's the other thing. We're so used to a Zoom society now, where we've all been on those meeting calls where you're kind of multitasking, you're reading your emails or you're doing something. And very quickly I realized, if I can come to this 1 hour and put everything away and just, you don't even have to actively participate, just be there, your body is recepting, like it's just receiving it all and soaking it all in. And it became addictive. It became addictive. I really looked forward to those calls.
And what would you say are some of your favorite outcomes that you have now? Because you're a different person than the person I met back then that called herself the Tiger Mom. And that was saying yes to everything because you were getting dumped the most difficult projects possible because you would always find a way to do them. And you're just a completely different person. But tell me what it feels like to you. What are some of the favorite things that you changed about yourself?
I think what I learned, I use this a lot. We've talked about this in several other side conversations. I believe you had to go from like negative to positive, but getting to neutral has been super powerful for me. So recognizing that if you can get to neutral, sometimes that's the best you can do, and that gets you at least to the next step. That was really a powerful thing, to the point where I'm using that term all the time now with my children. Just get to neutral and you'll be fine. Um, and I think the other piece is when a challenge comes or something doesn't come your way, or is that, gee, I wonder why I got that bump in the road. What is that doing? Where are we going that is going to be even better than what I thought it was? And having that mindset of curiosity um, has really, really changed how I feel about things, my outlook and perspective. I can't explain it, but by flipping that, I feel like there's just capacity and abundance that I didn't have before. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't think you're ever going to go back to those hours that you were working. What do you think?
No, it's really interesting, and I can't remember which section it was. Um, planning and going, do I need to be? Do I need to be on the phone from 6 to 7? Is anything really going to happen? And really asking yourself those questions. And a lot, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say no, and realizing the world doesn't end, and realizing you just gave yourself an hour or gave yourself the evening. Can you imagine being done at 5 or 6 and then really being present with your family? That has been such a game changer, because even if I got off the phone, I was always thinking about whatever it was I was thinking. I wasn't really present, and being present makes such a huge difference. So no, I'm fiercely protective of it now, because I realize that if I can give myself time to reboot or replenish, I'm actually a lot better in that. It's a quality thing now. I can be extremely productive, extremely helpful, if I can get quality versus quantity.
Those are some pretty damn fine outcomes. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for your kids, for your husband, and you just took a vacation that probably felt a little different than vacations in the past. So I'm just super excited for you. So what would you tell people who were like you were a few months ago, who are in this position of thinking, I have to sacrifice my health, my mental health, my time in order to be successful, who are burning out?
So I think the first thing I thought about that question, when I think about the question, the words that come to my mind are get help. So what I say that is, when your body aches, you go to the doctor. When your tooth hurts, you go to the dentist. When your hair turns white, you go to a colorist. Those kind of things. You start to think about those things. Well, when you are feeling this way, get help. Get professionals to help you. It doesn't have to be permanent. It doesn't have to be forever and a day. But you need someone to help guide you, because we're not experts on this. And when you are strapped and tired and thin, like I said, I didn't find relief. There was no way I was going to be creative enough or have the mindset to figure out what I needed to get to where I needed to go. So the words get help, which is really hard for people who are the helpers, not the helpies. But sometimes we need that too. And I think that's probably the most important. I 100% would not have gotten here without your help, without the group coach help. Um, those were all external things bringing out what needed to be brought out of me. I think that's number one. Number two, and I'm still a work in progress, so don't get me wrong, is you got to put yourself first. And what I mean by that is, I help everyone and everything. And, my kids want to go to this program or that program. We do that versus whatever I need, kind of a thing. That's always kind of been the way. Because when everyone's taken care of, I'll take care of me. Well, there are more everyone's and there are more everythings. And so if you feel bad about investing time in yourself, investing, taking a class for yourself, don't, because it actually helps everybody else. If you can restore, I don't want to say repair, it's restore, because you are extremely able-bodied individual who is extremely capable and does everything for everyone, which is why they come to you. But if you're able to restore yourself, put a little bit of effort into you, you're so much more helpful to everybody else and other people as well. I think about the people I've met along the way, the people who've said things in these classes, and I'm like, they don't even know what they've done for me. Like, they don't know that they're following me to all these meetings, all these voices. And I really hope these people that I may never meet again, or people I've seen in the classes, hear my voice with them when they go somewhere. So you just don't know who you can reach, but you can't do that until you help yourself first.
Very true.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I just thank you for sharing your experiences. And, when we first met, you had a thing about vulnerability. You didn't like it at
No.
all. And so to see you just open up and share with others, and I know that you've been an inspiration to others. I absolutely know it. And that you're going to be an inspiration to people just by sharing your story. So I'm very happy for you, and I'm very grateful for you sharing your story with me.
Thank you. And thank you for teaching me that vulnerability is actually really strong. Um, Being able to get yourself to a place of what I thought was weakness, but it wasn't. It was just, its vulnerability actually is can be um, extremely empowering. And I did not know that before I started.
And back to,
I didn't accept it.
no. And I think, for good reason too, because women have to be very careful, and they have to calibrate vulnerability, and they have to calibrate it not just to themselves, to the company culture, to their boss, to the person they're speaking with. And so it's easier just to not do it and pretend everything's okay and be strong. That's easier than the uncertainty of, how do I calibrate this appropriately so that they see me as a powerful individual they trust, and not as somebody who's too soft or whatever. So I just want to validate that it does take work, and it's sometimes doesn't work. You can overdo it, but you found the right balance. And I just know that you're going to keep using this now to make yourself even more powerful, like you said.
Thank you.